I noticed in the discussion board that a couple of you had said that you were having trouble kind of deciding when to use technology and when it was appropriate, and sometimes it felt like it was a forced thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about SAMR, and it's not a required thing that you need to know. It's just important as you work with technology to know the different layers of it. So just kind of an add-on for this week of what we've been talking about. Advance. So SAMR was invented by Ruben. I'm not going to say his last name right. Ruben. Brilliant guy. If you ever get a chance to hear him speak, he talks about how people developed technologies, even from the very beginning of human development, and what a successful technology has to have incorporated in it for it to actually work for human beings. So if you ever get a chance to hear him or read anything by him, he just does a great job. So he talks about that technology has to be social. So when we when we want to have kids work in isolation and they're not talking to their friends or they're not working with others, that technology is not going to really work very well. It needs to be mobile. It has to have a way for people to be able to visualize what's going on. The better there's a story with it or gaming, the more people are going to be involved in it. So those are the important components of technology as Ruben talks about how we develop things and how they become important to people and how we incorporate them in our lives. So those are the really important things of what human beings need to feel like they're learning something. Now, these are the levels of SAMR. So SAMR stands for substitution, which is just you're substituting one thing for another, like writing an essay with paper and pencil and writing an essay on a Chromebook. That's just substitution. Augmentation means making the project just a little bit better. So instead of just writing that essay, you're now maybe putting pictures into the essay, and you've put pictures, you've changed color, you've changed font, a little bit different than you could have done with just paper and pencil. The M stands for modification. So taking that task and completely really changing it to make it very different. So let's talk about that essay again. You've got that essay that you've written, and now you've put live links into it, or maybe you've put a video clip into your essay along with the picture. So it's really completely different than what you were doing before. And the redefinition is completely new. It was inconceivable to do this before you had this technology. So instead of the essay, maybe you've created a web page with links and video chats and interviews instead of just an essay about, I don't know, mitosis. You've got a whole web page about mitosis and how it works with pictures and videos. So completely transforming what the learner is producing and how they're doing it. So those are the levels of SAMR. I like this picture a little bit better. Just same thing, SAMR. So you've got that first one where you're just kind of putting your toes in the water. You're not always going to be in the submarine. You can't always be in the submarine because that's too strenuous on you and it's too strenuous on the kids. So when you're thinking about technology integration, not every day is going to be with tech. Some days you want to be on land. Some days you want to be swimming. Some days you just want to put your toes in the water. So understanding that, but some days you do want to be in that submarine in that great depth because you just don't want to be putting your toes in, just getting your feet wet. Here's another picture of it. I like this one too. So substitution, just a cup of coffee, get all the way to pumpkin spice. You don't want to drink pumpkin spice every day, but it's nice when you get it, okay? So just some different ways of looking at SAMR, okay? So here's an idea of looking at different levels of SAMR. If you were doing Shakespeare's sonnets, for substitution, you would just be looking at the sonnets and making a notebook of the sonnets. Okay, so that's just substitution. You're just copying them down. For augmentation, you're taking those. I think that's more modification. I would put this in modification. You've taken the sonnets, you've made a word map of them and seen how many times like thee and thou come. in that sonnet. So that word is you know, if you do a word map, those words are larger the more times that they're used. I would actually call that more modification than augmentation. I don't know why they have that there. Another way is that you could put the sonnets together and then ask questions and put them all in one place so they could look at all the sonnets at one time, ask questions, and then put links to them. So I would call that augmentation. I think they've got these backwards in this one. And then redefinition, taking those word maps, putting it to music, or creating their own music to go with the sonnets that was completely different than what they would have done before. And if I was doing this, I would have those word maps move to go with the music. Kind of a cool project for upper grade kids. So when you're talking about SAMR, you're thinking about, what am I doing differently? How's this task going to be different from what I've done before? If using the technology is not in the best interest of the kids, then don't do it. We're not using technology just to use the technology. It's not just to be cool to use the technology. We want it to mean something for the kids. But making sure that we're moving from substitution to augmentation, from augmentation to modification, modification to redefinition, okay? So here's another thing, and it's just art. So we're looking at pictures of art online and maybe putting them all together. So that would be substitution. Here's modification. So we're looking at museums and going to museums to look at different artists. Augmentation. Okay, so now we're using some math to create some of those art pieces and change the shapes of them using math to do that. And here we've got redefinition. So we've used our math to create our own museum of art pieces using, you know, whatever concept that we've been dealing with in art. So completely different than what they had before. Okay, so we're still not getting away from our basics in teaching. We still want to make sure that we're doing our formative assessment as we understand it. We're still using Bloom's taxonomy. That doesn't go away. Those are still important tasks of making sure that we're moving down that level and getting deeper into our depth of knowledge. And that we're working on critical thinking skills for our kids. So even with technology, we're not getting rid of those ideas. And as we plan technology, design technology units for our kids, we want to make sure that we incorporate these things. So I hope this makes it a little bit easier when you're talking about incorporating technology into your classroom and thinking about those levels of SAMR. All right.